Good evening, church. I hope you're all well this evening. Today's reading will be taken from Psalms 37, verses 3 to 6. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and feed on his faithfulness. Delight yourself also in the Lord, and he shall give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. He shall bring forth your righteousness as the light, and your justice as the noonday. Here ends our reading of God's word.
I'll just say yes. You lead the way. I'm not afraid of what it means for me to say. This life you gave, it's not my own. I'm trusting you to hear my yes and lead me on. I'll just say yes. You lead the way. I'm not afraid of what it means for me to say. This life you gave, it's not my own. I'm trusting you to hear my yes and lead me on. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. My life is yours. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. My life is yours, and there is peace when I say yes. I'm not afraid to say that you pave the way for all who trust you and obey. There is an answer, no more delay. I'll just say yes. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. My life is yours. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. My life is yours. Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord. My life is yours. Yes, Lord. Yes, to your will and to your ways. My life is yours. I'll say yes, Lord, yes, to your will and to your ways. I'll say yes, Lord, yes. I will trust you and obey. When your spirit speaks to me, with my whole heart I'll agree, and my answer will be yes, Lord, yes. I'll say yes,
Hello, good evening, and welcome to PCH Hangout. If you're excited to be here, give somebody a high five. Tell the person it's good to see you. Tell the person especially you. So today is the final day of our series of conversations about planning and finance, considering the importance of this year in the scheme of things and in our lives. We thought our first series this month or this year should be on the theme of planning and finance. And we've had different interactions on the subject, starting with the first one on sit down, which I did, followed by the Valentine's Day conversation about cash or love, which is the more critical factor in building marital relationships. And we had different perspectives on that subject. Last week, Prof. Hinson came through with being battle ready. Today we finished the discussion on the leader as a planner. And our speaker for tonight is somebody that Comfort and I truly love and appreciate for the excellence in which she does what she does. And she is in high demand across the world as a leadership and organizational development practitioner, facilitator, certified coach, and speaker. The last time we met, we were in a conference together, speaking together, and it was such a wonderful time, after which we had a conversation on the virtual university. Taaka is a CEO of Busara Africa, a Pan-African leadership development firm. She has very strong opinions about the continent that we share, and just like we do, she believes that the vision that we have, the thoughts that we express can catapult people from a place of great disadvantage to a place of excellence. She's done this for 20 years across different countries. I asked her, which country were you last visiting? And she says, you went where? Somewhere in South America. One day when I grow up, I'll go to South America. But Taaka is a certified international coach and a member of the International Coaching Federation. New Wine Temple and our friends watching us online across the world, help me give a big welcome to Taaka Awori.
Thank you so, please be seated. Thank you so much. I'm deeply humbled and excited to be here. So good evening. Oh, that seemed like a very late. Let me start with good evening. Aha, let me try this side. Good evening. Good evening. And this side, let's see the energy on this side. Good evening. Good evening. It sounds like there's more energy on this side. So I'm truly honored, as I said, to be here, to be talking about something that actually, Reverend Okan, I don't know how you knew that this was the topic to give me. Because the topic is the leader as planner. And I will start with a confession. I'm in church, so I start with confessions, yes? I'll start with a confession. I am a notorious planner. I love planning. I'm known within my family as, oh, something needs to be organized, you ask Taaka to do it. She will plan it. She will make sure it happens. People ask me, how have you gotten to where you are today, Taaka? And I tell people, it wasn't by accident. I planned it. And with God's support, it was realized. So this topic is one that's very close to my heart. But there's a couple of things as I start I think I should clarify, because leader as planner, I need to clarify a couple of things in terms of what we mean by those terms. So let's start with the first term. What is a leader? And I think I need to clarify right from the beginning. Many of you, in fact, let me ask you, if I ask somebody in this room, what is a leader? What would you say? I'm going to pick on you, forgive me. If I asked you, what is a leader?
I would say a leader is someone who organizes a group to achieve a common objective.
A leader is someone who leads a group to achieve a common objective. Spot on, eh? But there are a couple of things I want to emphasize when I talk about leadership today. Eh? The first thing is, as much as I fully agree with you, I need to emphasize that a leader is not necessarily somebody with a title leader. So many people think, oh, I'm only a leader if somebody calls me manager, somebody calls me director, somebody calls me reverend, somebody calls me deacon. Huh? But it's recognizing instead that each one of us are leaders. No matter what role you play, you are a leader in your life. You're a leader in the corner. One of the examples I often use about leadership without a title is often I'm at City FM. And when you go to City FM, you will notice that those who are directing you to park your car in a particular way and to make sure that you know where to go. The first time I went there, when they were in a Dabraka, I noticed the person who came out was in a pink tie. And he says, oh, madam, please, you're supposed to park in this place. Huh? And then reverse a bit. And so I kept thinking, but the manager has come to direct me where to park. Why is the manager doing that? Shouldn't they be inside? And when he was finished directing me, he said, okay, madam, now you go to reception. It's when it struck me, this was not the manager. It was security. It was security, and he was taking leadership of that parking area. And what I admire about City FM at that time, they gave him a tie so people could take him seriously. Because we know our cultures, we take people seriously, unfortunately, based on how they are dressed. But what I liked about it, he was taking leadership. So that's the first key thing. So when I talk about a leader today, I want you to recognize that all of you in this room, no matter what age, all of you who are listening and joining us live, you are all leaders. You may not be leading a group of people, but the first thing you're leading, guess what? Is yourself. Because the foundation of good leadership starts with personal leadership. Okay? So that's the first thing in terms of our definitions, that when we talk about leadership, I'm talking about everybody here in this room. Another definition before we go further is around planning, because remember the title of this conversation is The Leader as a Planner. So what do we mean by planning? All we mean by planning is a plan is something that enables you to give you a process from where you are now to where you want to be. And it'll be wonderful if there's a way to get our slides up, because all of this will be done on the slides. Oh, good. There we go. There we go. A plan is a detailed proposal for doing or achieving something. So we're good on our terminology, what a leader is and what a plan is. Okay. So again, I'll move on as I talk about leadership again. When I talk about leadership, I'm talking both about personal leadership. So this conversation is not just about work or school. It's sometimes also your personal life. I'm talking about personal leadership, but also formal leadership. So keep that in mind as we go through the conversation today when I talk about leadership and planning. But all right, so let's move on then. Let me start. I can see some of you are very organized. You already have your notepads out. You're ready to take notes. Huh? So as we start to move on, let me start with a question you may be having, which may be around, so Taaka, what does leadership have to do with planning? Why have they been combined? Huh? And the answer to that question is, as you can see, leadership is about influencing people to achieve a shared goal, right? Now, it is much easier. A plan increases the likelihood of you achieving that goal in the smoothest, fastest way possible. And I know you've seen it before. All of a sudden, you're supposed to organize a wedding or a funeral. There is no plan. Everybody's moving in different directions. Somehow it may get organized, but it will not be the smoothest. It will not be the fastest. In fact, it might be the most contentious, painful way because you simply did not have a proper plan. So if you're a leader and you're supposed to be leading everyone to a particular direction, the plan enables you to achieve that in the smoothest, fastest way. Which brings me to my first message of today. Leaders have to be master planners. That is message number one. Leaders have to be master planners. Because if leadership is about getting you from A to B and getting others, and a plan enables you to do that, it means you have to be master planner, yeah? So that's the first message. Moving on to my second message. It's about the importance of your plan. Now, what does your plan enable you to do? The plan enables you to focus your intention and your attention. Now, what do I mean by that? What is your intention? Your intention is that thing you want to achieve. I want to go to law school next year. I want to graduate with top marks next year. I want my business to succeed next year. You all have things, you have intentions. I intend to do this, why, and why. Now, the thing about your plan will determine, am I really clear? Am I focused enough about what I truly intend? And you'll see one of the things I find the big problem people have is they intend too many things. They're all over the place. And a plan helps you focus. Because many times I sit down, as a coach, many times I'll sit down with people and say to them, so tell me, what are your professional goals? What are your goals for your life? And they will start with a long, long list, and I want to do this, I want to do this. I'll say, okay, let's just start with 2024. What do you want to achieve? My intention is I want to do this, this, this. And I'll be like, that is too, you need to focus. A plan will help you focus. And I'll say a little bit more about that. So a plan enables you to help focus your intention. Now, how does a plan help you focus your attention? What I've seen many times in organizations, I walk in and out of so many different organizations, and I will walk into some companies or organizations, and some of them I will notice will be, again, all over the place. This minute, they are doing this business because they say, oh, we can make money here. Everybody's doing this. Next minute, they switch. They're like, oh, but everybody's selling this, so maybe we should sell this. Next minute, everybody's online doing this, so we should... Their attention is all over the place. So what do I ask them? I ask them, where's your plan? Where is your plan that describes your intention? Because that should focus your attention. Because right now, your attention is just everywhere. Your spray gun, without being focused. So that's the first key thing about why a plan is so important. It helps you focus your intention and your attention. Third key message. You're like, okay, yeah, that's fine, Taaka, but let's get to the practicalities. This is a practical session. How do we do that? Before you even do that, you need to make sure you avoid 3 common mistakes I have seen leaders, and remember when I'm talking about leaders, I'm talking about all of you in this room. Leaders make in planning. And as I go through each of these mistakes, almost hold a mirror up to yourself and say, I think this one I may be guilty of. Yeah? All right. Mistake number 1. What is that first mistake we often make? Is we plan, yes, we plan, but we don't plan effectively. Huh? So I'll give you again another example. Again, in my coaching work, I may have met somebody who says, I think I need a career change. And so what I would like to do is this year, I'm going to do a plan to enter law school. And I will do law school on the weekends outside of school because I can't do it with my regular hours. So all my Saturdays, I will be in law school, or I'll be taking this master's or whatever. And they will do a whole plan around that. But one of the things I will notice, one of the first mistakes in how they're planning is they don't involve everyone who will be affected by that plan. So for instance, this particular person I was coaching, who said they were going to law school and going to do it on weekends, what was the implication of that? It meant that her mother-in-law needed to help her with the kids on Saturdays. But guess what? While she was doing she planned. But while she was doing her very nice plan, she did not speak to her mother-in-law at all. So the time came when it was time for her to go to the classes. She's calling her mother, and her mother-in-law said, I'm so sorry, I had made plans to go to Kumasi for the next couple of weeks. You didn't tell me. When you were planning, you didn't involve me. So you can see how it happens at a personal level. We make plans, but we don't consult involve people who will be affected by that plan. At an organizational level, in some of your businesses and companies, don't you see it? The bosses make very big plans. Next thing, you're just being told, you need to go here, you need to go there, and you're like, but this doesn't make sense. If you had involved me, I would have told you that strategy won't work. That won't bring the business. So those leaders have failed to involve people who will be implementing that plan. So that's one of the first mistakes we make. We don't involve the right people. And sometimes, if you talk about planning even just for yourself, involving every part of you, I'll give you an example how I did not consult all parts of me. Last year I decided that, Taaka, you really need to get your French in order. So I made a plan and I enrolled in Alliance Française on Saturdays. My mind made that plan. Who did I not consult? My body. So every Saturday morning, I would wake up and my body would be saying, Taaka Awori, we are tired. We are tired. Did you consult us when you made that plan for every Saturday when the body needs rest? But the mind was so eager and like, oh no, we have to. So sometimes it's even about consulting your mind, body, and spirit to say, are we aligned? Because it will take your mind, body, and spirit to implement that plan. Yeah? So that's the first mistake we make in terms of not planning effectively. Second mistake I see in not planning effectively, still on this first one. Or let's go back I'm still on the first one. Let's go back, I'm still on the first one. In not planning effectively. What we do is we do plans, and this mainly happens within teams. It could happen within church teams, organizational teams. You will do a plan, but there is too much in the plan. It is totally unrealistic. I will walk into organizations and I'll say, oh, can I please see your strategy? Or your annual plan? And I'll look at it and I'll say, are there superhumans who are supposed to implement this? Do you have unlimited budget? Do you have unlimited time? Because how did you plan? You clearly did not prioritize when you're planning. This plan is totally unrealistic. So you see it often that when we're planning, we don't do it well because we don't prioritize. Even at a personal level, many of these things I'm just confessing, I preach what I know I have to learn. I teach what I know I have to learn. If you see my plans at the beginning of the year, very elaborate, fantastic plans. I have plans for my health. I told you I like planning. I have plans for my finances. I have my social. And then I look and I said, Taaka, are you being real? This is totally unrealistic. So that's a mistake we often make in the planning process. We don't prioritize. as we're planning, because planning should help you decide, I can do this, but sincerely speaking, I can't do this. Yeah? So that's one mistake I see, folks. Still on number one, in terms of how we don't plan effectively, I see where folks have a plan that stays in their heads. You never write it down. How can you have a plan that you don't write down at some level? And yet often people will say, no, I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing, it's in my head. It's in my head. A plan that's not written down is almost just an idea. Yeah? So those are some of the things we see in terms of how this number one, we plan, but we don't plan effectively. We don't involve people, we don't prioritize, or we don't write it down. So that's the mistake number one to avoid. Let's go to mistake number two. We plan, but we don't use the plans. Put up your hand if you're guilty of this one. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So we do nice, elaborate plans, and particularly January or December. That is when people, if it's the office retreat to go do planning, and they call Taaka, come, facilitator. You do a very nice plan, PowerPoint, spreadsheets, Excel. Or those of you with your resolutions, January, love, me too. And then you come and ask somebody, you almost about now, where the excitement of the new year is waning. You're like, that plan you had, how's it going? How are you using that plan? And sometimes it's for legitimate reasons. We forget about it, things change, crises happen, and so the plan ceases to be relevant. So we have reasons for that. But the reality is, too often we spend a lot of time planning, and yet we don't use. So avoid that second mistake. Yeah? Third mistake to avoid. We don't plan for what is truly important. Now let me ask you this. Imagine if I asked you all, now we're in 2024, if I asked you about what you would like to have achieved or what you would like to be experiencing in 5 years from now, which would be what, 2029? Give me an example of some of those things. If I say to you at the end, if I came and saw you all in 2029, what's today, Feb 27th, Feb 27th, what would you like to see in your life? Give me some examples. What would you like to see in your life?
To be the head of retail banking in my department.
Nice. To be the head of retail marketing. Anybody else? What would you want to see in your life?
I want to build a house. Yes.
He wants to build a house. Okay. So you can see, so now I will now ask you the tough questions. Do you have a plan for that? Spot on. Do you have a plan for that? That's okay, then I won't have to. He's smiling. What I have found for many folks is that for a lot of their professional and financial goals, people may have a plan for that one, particularly professional. I'll say people may have a plan for that. But when I ask them, tell me about exactly the full elements of what you see in your life, people may say, I want to be healthy, isn't it? I want to be healthy. I want to have a close relationship with the divine. I want to have close relationship with my partner, my husband or my wife. I may want to have close relationships and healthy relationships with my children or my family. I would want to have close friendships. All of those. We may say all of those. And yet the question is, if those things are so important to you, do you plan for it? How do you plan for the loving relationship with your children? Because for so many of us, we assume it will just happen. We assume we will have that loving community. We assume we will retire and be comfortable. We assume we will be healthy, but we ain't got no plan for it. And yet, if somebody asked you, you would say, those are some of the most important things in my life. And yet, somehow, we don't plan for them. So that becomes the third mistake to avoid. Don't fall into the trap of only planning for the material, the professional. There's so many other things that are so important in your life that will not happen by accident. Just like that. You need to plan for them, yeah? So that was my message number what? Number 2, about avoiding these mistakes. So then you may naturally ask me, okay, Taaka, that was actually message number 3, yeah? It's like, okay, so what do we do about this? And how do we avoid these mistakes? It's really about saying, we can move on to the one, there we go. Use planning as one of your secret weapons for success as a leader. Remember, planning is something that can really leverage your success as a leader. And you would be right to ask me, okay, that's very fine, but how? Get practical. How do I actually leverage planning? And I'll take you through that and then conclude. So you leverage planning. It first starts with what happens before you even get to the planning process. And I would say the first thing to do is be sure to have a plan for anything that's important to you that you want to achieve or experience. It's interesting, I have a group of girlfriends that we always come together. Our children spend a lot of time together. And we've been saying for a long time that it would be so nice that just us mothers would go on holiday, because normally when we go on holiday, we take all the children with us, it's busy. So we're saying it would be so nice if just us mothers could go away together. And we've been talking about this thing forever. And guess what? It doesn't happen because we don't have a plan. So each year, I notice we keep talking about this, but until we start to put in a plan where we're actually going to say, clarify, what's our intention? And then start to put attention on that to say, all right, so where do we want to go? How are we going to save up to make sure we have the resources? How are we all going to make sure that our calendars coincide? Because if we don't plan for it, it won't happen. We'll be too busy. We won't have the money. We won't have had the savings. Life happens. So this is the key thing. You see this quote, if we don't choose to plan, then we choose to have others plan for us. Let me say that again. If we don't choose to plan, then we choose to have others plan for us. I see this so often again when I talk to people who, in my age, they're in their mid-50s, they're looking back in their lives and they're like, how did I come to be here? And they found that life just happened. Oh, well, I got married, then the kids came, then I found this job, and then somehow I was transferred to that place. It almost seemed like somebody else was controlling their lives. So if you're not intentional about your life and paying attention to that, you'll find somebody else will do it for you. Your boss will do it for you. Your father-in-law will do it for you. Your parents will do it for you. Anyone who has power over your life will simply do that for you. The government will do that for you. The economy will do that for you. Doomsaw will do that for you. Because all of a sudden you will find that I didn't plan for a backup. And so all of a sudden, Doomsaw has limited my productivity. I've had to shut down my business because I didn't plan. I have been left to circumstance. So this is about, first and foremost, deciding. Where is your intention? What are your priorities? What is it you want to achieve? It is make sure there is a plan for it. So that's the first thing to do before the plan. All right. So let's say now you're very clear. Your health is important to you. Your family relationships are important to you. Your professional achievement is important to you. Your academic achievement. So let's say you've got all those things, and now you're ready to sit down to do a plan. What do you need to make sure you do with respect to that plan? Huh? All right. So the first thing is ensure that your plan helps you clarify your intentions. What do I mean by that? You know, sometimes I'll see people saying, oh, you know, I would like to be very successful, or I want to have enough money, I want to be financially independent. And I'll say, but define exactly what does that mean? And when you start planning, you really need to define, what does that mean? And when you're planning with others, if you don't clarify what that destination is, and you'll see it within teams where they're saying, all right, so we want to have a successful retreat, want to have a successful church retreat. Different people may have very different expectations of what success means. So if you don't jointly clarify what that end goal is like, trust me, you'll be pulling in different directions. So part of the planning process is defining what does success look like. Are we very clear on that? Clarify your intentions. The second one is, again, all those dreams we have. I'm sure if I got into so many of your minds, you'll have so many dreams. It's using the plan to turn those dreams into reality. And then, of course, the one I mentioned before, it's about that thing about don't plan alone. Don't plan alone. There's some time where you may need to first get clear in your mind, but if there is any single person that is somehow going to be implicated by your plan, make sure you're in conversation with them as you work on the plan. So don't plan alone. Then this is the tough one. Ensure that the plan clarifies what you will do and what you will not do. Part of what we had to do as a team at Busara was actually say, all right, this is our list, and this is what we need to take off the list. Because guess what? We were being unrealistic. We simply can't. Why set yourself up for failure? Be realistic. It means you have to prioritize. So as you're planning, state these are all the things we want to achieve, put that whole list down, and when you're done, go through it a second time and delete. And I tell you, that's the tough part to do. Because if you're doing it with others, particularly if you're co-thinking together, someone will say, no, we must do that, that's important. Somebody will say, no, that's important. And that's where leadership becomes really important. A leader who cannot be able to prioritize is not a useful leader, is not an effective leader. So make sure that in your planning process, you are defining some boundaries, meaning we will do this, but we will not do that. The last one then is, I've noticed when we're doing plans, there's some people who love planning and they get so detailed, as they say, they get into the weeds to the point that it's not helpful. Because really planning, you're doing a lot of guesswork, isn't it? You're hoping certain things will happen. And then there's some who make it so general that it's also not helpful. So it's really you learning that right balance, isn't it? Between the details, and having it broad enough. So those are some things to keep in mind as you're doing the planning, All right, so your work is not done. Now you've done the plan, you've written it up, What next? How do you ensure that this becomes your secret weapon? And sometimes this is some of the best thing. Let's go to what happens after you've written the plan. Oh yeah, these are some quotes I love. A plan that is not written is just an idea. Many of you all are just walking around only with ideas that will never materialize into reality because you've never put a plan to it. Number 2, they're dreamers and they're planners. The planners make their dreams come true. So if you're sitting on some powerful dreams that you want to see realized, how do you unlock those dreams? How do you turn them into reality? You plan. You work a plan. Yeah? All right, so after you've written the plan, what happens after you've written the plan? This is a big one I've seen, and this is related to the mistake that folks often have about the plan sits on the shelf. Again, I walk into many organizations and I say, okay, so what are you people busy doing? Huh? And they say, we're doing this, and I'm like, how is it related to your annual plan or your strategy? No connection. Their daily to-do list has no connection to the plan. So what this means for you concretely, and this is something we have done as a team in my organization, once we did our plan, we made sure that every single week we take that plan and say, what does our overall annual plan mean for each of us this week? That means the plan becomes our reference point. And then that weekly list becomes, what does it mean for me today, Wednesday? So do you see the trickle down? Yeah. Otherwise, it's so easy to be pulled in a million directions. As I say, life happens. Client is calling, so-and-so is calling, kids need this, emergencies happen, and before you know it, but if you've made that connection, you have it live in front of you, and you're saying, all right, given the plan, this is what I'm doing this week, and therefore this is what I'm doing today. So make sure that connection is there. Otherwise, it's just a plan on paper. The second thing is I found, and I have to confess, this thing I only learned 2 weeks ago. And when I learned it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to share it when I come to see Reverend Okran and his team. There's a time management concept called time blocking. It's called time blocking. And what does it mean? It means, and I'll share what it means in the context of a particular challenge I was having. I noticed there was something on our annual plan, a particular activity that was very internal facing with our company. It was something to do with client development. It was not something that a client was asking me to do. If a client is asking me to come and talk or train, I will be there. But sometimes if it's one of those, they call them, it's important but not urgent. You know those things, those strategic things, those sharpening the saw things. It was one of those things that I noticed. It was in our plan. I would put it on my weekly list. I would even put it on my daily to-do list 3 weeks in a row. It was not done. 3 weeks in a row, I noticed this thing would not get done because things kept changing. One client wanted this thing, another thing, the pressures. Huh? So then I was listening to a podcast that was talking about time management, and they were talking about the problem with a to-do list. How many of you have to-do lists? Good. Another secret weapon. And now this is another tool to help you really work your to-do list. What this podcast person was saying is that if something is important to you, it is not enough to just put it on your to-do list. You must schedule it and put a time block around it. That's what they mean as time blocking. Yeah? So what I did with this particular activity, I literally put it in my calendar. I said from 10 to 12, I'm doing that thing. So that way, my colleagues would know, no, Taaka can't meet with a client that time. I can't because I have scheduled it in my calendar. So the tip is this. We attend to things we schedule, isn't it? Meetings, whatever it is. But if something is in your schedule, 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 12 o'clock, you will do it. Because it's usually with somebody else. Schedule, time block your priorities. And this podcast person was saying, Time block your time with your kids if that's a priority. Time block a time with your partner if that's a priority. Time block a time to do your Bible study if that's a priority. Put it in your calendar on your phone that this is blocked. That's what they mean by time blocking. Because they realize if you just do it on a to-do list, it'll get overrun. I found this. I was working with a particular group of managers of a particular utility company, district managers, and they would say, Taaka, you keep telling us to do a to-do list, but I can tell you we never get to our to-do list because the minute we get to the office, there's a long line of clients waiting to see us. So how do we get to everything on? And I said, now I'm learning. They should have time blocked. They should have said, from 9 to 12, I can see whoever is there. But I just need from 12 to 1. Door is closed, or I've even run away to another office, locked the door, and time blocked this priority. So that's something you could do with your list, as to make sure that something gets carried on. Another key thing we've learned is to ensure you have a regular date with your plan. Now, I learned this the hard way with my finances. My finances, for me, are difficult things to deal with, but I have realized if I want to reach my financial goals, I must have a plan. So I noticed over the last couple of years, I would have a plan, and the plan would sit there. I wouldn't, it was one of those plans that was on paper. So what I decided to do this year is I said, nope, I'm having a regular date with my finance plan. So I would say every other month, Sunday at 2 o'clock, I'm bringing out that plan and I'm looking and seeing how am I doing? How far have it's in the calendar. The same thing with my team at the office. We realize if we just leave that plan sitting in that file folder, so now every Monday morning, we're not just talking about our to-do list. We're talking about what is planned for the week in line of our plan. So our date with our plan is Monday morning. My date with my finance plan is every other week on Sundays at 3 o'clock. So if you don't schedule time to go back to your plan, it'll sit on the shelf, never to be seen again. Yeah? So schedule time. Now, what do you do when you schedule time when you have that date? A key thing to do as part of that date is there needs to be some kind of accountability, isn't it? So what you've done, so accountability can look like different things. For us, we have found a business coach who sits with us to say, how are you guys doing on this plan? It could be also our board asks us, how are we doing on the plan? For my personal plans, I have what I call an accountability partner, another friend who will say, hey, so Taaka, you said you were going to do all these things on your health goals. How is it going? Then I also ask her the same thing. So building in some type of accountability so it matters whether you've done something or not. Yeah? Let your plan show you what you need to learn. When you keep finding that I'm focusing on this, but I'm not focusing on that. When you review your plan, it will teach you a lot about what you're doing, what you're not doing, what's getting in your way. So let that date with that plan be a learning time to see what am I learning about what I need to do differently. So that's the aspect about learning. And naturally, I think this one is obvious. I think the last thing I'd want you to take away is the thinking that you have to be so rigid following your plan. Again, life happens. Circumstances change. So you have to be flexible with your plan, isn't it? So when you have your date with your plan, it's a time to look and say, is this still relevant? Do we need to adjust course? Because what we thought would have happened hasn't happened. So we need to be flexible with your plan. Don't be so rigid. And ultimately, when you don't implement your plan to the T, apply forgiveness and grace. You know? Because I have seen folks, even myself, I have done that. that instead of using the plan to encourage myself, when I have my date with a plan and I realize I haven't done things, I'm like, I start really whipping myself, being so hard on myself. So this is a real invitation to you that as you review your plan and you find that maybe I haven't quite done the things I said I would do, forgive yourself. Learn from it. Self-compassion to see what can you do better going forward. Otherwise, it'll just be an instrument of torture, which is not the idea, yeah? All right. Thank you. So I will conclude then. So in conclusion, I like this. Before I conclude, if plan A doesn't work, the alphabet has 25 more letters. And I'm always you have to have plan A, plan B, plan C, so be agile in your plans, so that if you need to switch to B, C, D, and F, do it, as long as you have a plan, yeah? All right, so in conclusion, I remind you of the key messages, yeah? All of you are leaders, and all of you as leaders need to be master planners. That's number one. Number two, use planning to focus your intention and your attention. Number three, avoid the 3 common mistakes that people make when they're planning. And then 4, use planning as your secret weapon by focusing on key things before, during, and after. Thank you very much. I think I've spoken longer than I intended to. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Taaka. Please take a wonderful seat here. A round of applause for Taaka Awori. Wonderful. Taaka, if you retired from coaching, consider going into teaching. You make a very good teacher. Round of applause for her. I love this. I love this. So I would like this to be a conversation. And while Taaka, let me get you some water, catch your breath. And I know you love water. The good thing about PCH Hangout is that it's a conversation, so it's very, very relaxed. So just tell me which point, and let me tell you mine before you mention mine. Which was your favorite point in Taaka's presentation? Let's get some mics around. Which was your favorite point and why? Mine was time blocking. I loved it. I loved it. Unavailable. You can see me, but I'm not available. Yeah, I've blocked it. 11 to 12 is blocked. Don't book no appointment. You can see the person, but he's not available. Simple. I love that one. I love that one. While you get your points lined up, the thing that struck me the most, and for very good reason, is mentioning that you have a business coach and you have an accountability partner. It's common to see people who are certified coaches think they don't need anyone, and you openly mention that you got yourself a coach. What does it say about the need for some support, call it mentoring, call it guidance, call it coaching, for anyone seeking to achieve their goals in life? Let's start from that one.
I always say, too often I encounter leaders, very senior leaders, who, when we talk about leadership training or coaching, they're like, oh, no. Those are for the younger ones. And I always say, as a leader, if you have stopped learning and growing, you have no business leading. Because leadership, but actually growth as a human being is fundamentally what enables us to thrive. Always that sense of we're moving from A to B. But often it can be quite difficult because we get stuck in our ways, we're worn down by life. And so the importance of having helpers around you. And helpers can come in different forms. They can be the counselor, they can be the therapist, they can be the pastor, such as yourself. But the business I know, the profession I know of helping is coaching. And the power of coaching compared to some of the other ones is that it reminds you of your greatness when you forget. It's not necessarily about giving advice, but enabling you to think for yourself what is the best way forward. The other power of coaching is accountability. And this is really also why we got a business coach. We found that for many of us who run small businesses, it is so easy to be focused working in the business and not on the business. So working in the business, I mean very busy, I'm coaching, I'm training, I'm facilitating, I'm teaching, I'm doing all of those things. Yet equally important is the time I spend to grow Busara, to do client development, to do organizational development, to think about our finances, how are we growing, to think about our marketing, are we messaging, are we reaching the right people and the right leaders? And what we were finding over the years is we were consistently neglecting it.
Would you be of the point of view that a coach cannot coach themselves?
You're always coaching yourself. I'm always coaching myself. And how do I'm asking myself different. What we do as coaching is we ask the kinds of questions that lead to deepened awareness. But in addition to coaching yourself, it becomes so useful to have that external perspective that often helps you with your blind spots. You know, there's parts of myself that I don't want to go, I don't want to deal with, but the coach, the times I've had a coach or my accountability partner pushes me on those specific things. And that's also what our business coach does. Asks us, I know that I can get so busy enjoying conversations like this, but there are some key things that are important, but not urgent. They are not paid, but they're important. They're the sharpening of the saw, and our business coach asks us about that. How have you done on this? Why haven't you delivered on that? So it is vital.
If you pretend you haven't heard, they will keep asking
Thank
till
you.
you answer.
Thank you.
Does it require humility to subject yourself to somebody to ask you those tough questions?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
When I come back, I'll ask you about the balance between too general and too detailed.
Okay.
Hold on, let me come back to you. Irajua, what's your favorite learning from Taaka Awori today?
So I think it's the last point regarding giving yourself grace and, leaving room for correction or whatever it is. I have often beaten myself up if I'm not able to achieve what is on my to-do list, and I'm like, oh, you should have paid attention, you should have done this. And for me, if I'm supposed to give myself grace, I think it's a good thing for me to just soften out a bit,
I guess it's easy to say a banker like you can use what she's doing. Karen, you are a model. Tell me whether you can relate to these in your work as a model. Can you find relevance? I'm just wondering, will a model find relevance in the thoughts that you're sharing? So Karen, tell me, do you find any relevance in what she's sharing to your work as a model?
So with regarding to the planning, everything she says, it's more like she telling us what we need to do as humans. So she mentioned something like, if plan A fails, there are still 25 more letters. So let's say I'm a model, I intend doing something that I think that what I'm about doing 5 years to come, 2 years to come, it wouldn't take me far, or I wouldn't achieve anything from it. I'll have to look at the next thing to adjust myself to it. So I think what you have given us is actually very good.
Thank you very much, Karen. Let's go to KK Agri. Let's KK. Francis, get on the mic and tell me your big learning from tonight. Maureen, you're about fraud, Dempo. Esther. No, Esther. Okay, Francis, let's hear you first. Your one big learning from Taaka Awori.
Thank you very much. I would pick ensuring that you engage everybody else around you that
Did you try signing up for a course without telling your mother-in-law? That was crazy, eh? Can you imagine? No, he was asking about the one that involves telling all those who will be involved either in the implementation or affected by it before you start the course. Yes. Did you ever try a course without telling your mother-in-law?
No, please.
Okay. Why is that important for you?
Well, I believe it is one thing that usually affects our plans, especially as leaders, because then you may not take into consideration the various stages in the life of your team or your team members. So at every stage, for all you know, this lady is planning on adding a member to the family.
Oh,
so
I was trying to understand what this meant.
In the next 3 months or 4 months, she may not be available in the team. You may not know another member. Usually they may not say it immediately, have plans of taking some days off to perhaps pursue a course or etc. So at the end of the day, you find yourself now trying to get extra heads to be able to accomplish a particular plan. And then secondly, what to do and what not to do. Because sometimes, especially when it involves money, and then when it involves, should I say, principles. So there's a plan that's perhaps an extra addition to the plan. Because sometimes when you are moving ahead of a plan, you realize that you need to do this or do that in order to make it more effective. And then you realize that, if we do this and that, the cost will be this and that, and you not plan for that extra budget. And so that is also something you have to take into consideration. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Taaka, come back and help us. So, you are so sure you have your team. You've got it covered. You've made the plan. You've worked so hard. Then just when you are rolling it out, like you mentioned, you find that somebody has a plan, that's your plan, that cannot accommodate your plan. How do you ensure that in the planning process, you are up to date with all the subplots that could derail your plan?
So there's a couple of things that we didn't get to mention that I think are important, and maybe this also comes to your details versus being broad. I think one of the reasons why you're trying to get the fine line between so many to being too detailed versus being so broad is you're planning for eventualities. You need to build into your plan things that you hadn't planned for. So it's almost like the other day I made a plan and it was just too tight in terms of the timelines because I didn't plan for eventualities. So you can't go around asking people, so are you intending to have a baby this year? And are you going to be sick this year? You just don't know what may happen.
Right.
So part of, as you're doing the plan, you're both prioritizing, but you're also leaving room for eventualities. So I would say have your plan A and then have your plan B. Your plan A is the optimal number of resources in terms of finances, optimal human resources. Your plan B is like, should that not materialize, do we know? So that's sometimes if you have a risk strategy, that can help you, or a risk plan that can help you with that. Yeah?
You mentioned that along the line, knowing what you will do and then also what you will not do. And you said, as a team, after you've drawn up the bucket list, strike off what you will not do. So I've seen two friends of mine here on the right side of the hall. They are partners in business, but they have two very different personalities. Very, very. Somehow they manage. I'm trying to find out how they do, but I won't mention their names. Okay. So if you are in a strategy session and you are trying to strike off what you will do, what you will not do from the list of what you will do, how do you manage contrasting personalities? It could happen in marriage, it could happen in business. Help us to appreciate.
You determine your criteria for prioritization.
Right.
So you take out I don't want to say take out the emotions, but you take out the subjectivity. Otherwise, somebody will say, no, but I think we should do this. And somebody says, but I think we should do that.
And they're both right.
They could be both right. So the issue is, even before you start prioritizing, agree what are the factors, the criteria that will allow something to stay on the plan or will allow something to stay off the plan. It helps people think a lot more objectively and not just by, this is my favorite project, this is my pet project, this is the one that will enable me to succeed. But it also makes transparent everybody's reasoning as they advocate for what's in or out.
Wow. Round of applause. Okay, so those on the left, any question from this side on the thoughts that Taaka has shared? I'd like to hear your questions.
There was a question here in the front.
There you go. Right.
Thank you very much for your concern. I wanted to emphasize on letting your plan define your weekly or daily to-do list. So let's say I'm in a project with someone, or in the project in a business, and my expectation is to maybe to acquire some income, and I've made my plan on a list. Let's say, okay, maybe in 1 week, this is what I want to do. And then it happens that what I've planned for, I've written for, hasn't happened the way I was expecting. How do I do it? And let's say I give myself another time for it, but the same expectations still disappoint me. And I'm also not able to target my achievement. How do I do it? And he also said a way that you need to be flexible and forgiveness. I want to understand in that situation.
I absolutely love the question, yes. And what you've gone through was very much similar to what I was facing with that thing that kept appearing on my to-do list that I was not accomplishing. And I think this is what, remember there was a point I made about how you learn from your plan. If you notice, I had to take a hard look at myself and say, what's going wrong? Why is it 3 weeks in a row I have failed to do this thing? What is this thing teaching me? What do I need to learn about what I need to do differently going forward so this thing doesn't remain a not accomplished thing? And that's when I learned the time boxing. So it's almost as if you find something, you are constantly not achieving it, spend a moment saying, what is this teaching me about what I need to do differently going forward so that I can better achieve it? So learn from that. Don't keep, if we keep repeating the same things over and over again and not accomplishing it, then we won't get a different result. I don't know if that answers your question.
What happens is, if you have no other alternative, but that is the only alternative to your source of plan. You don't have any other alternative yet, but that's what you are emphasizing or focus on, that with this one, I can be able to do this, but it's still not working out.
So this is why I always love having a coach, because many times and a coach doesn't have to be a formal coach, but somebody who can serve as what I call your thinking partner. Many of us, I find, we do something that I call, we argue for our limitations. We will say, but it has to be this thing. And you might determine the pickup. I must have the pickup. Because for this business to work, I must have the pickup. What a good thinking partner will do, will ask you, remind me of your name? Michael. A good thinking partner will say, okay, Michael, tell me all the ways you've used so far to work on getting that pickup. Tell me why all those ways haven't worked. Michael, let's think outside of the box in terms of different ways we could think about achieving, because we know it has to be the pickup. But instead of getting rooted to only this way of getting the pickup, let's think together about what are other alternatives. A good thinking partner will also ask you, Michael, what are some of the beliefs you have that are getting you stuck? Because sometimes I find what gets in people's way often is not even so much their external circumstance, but the way they're thinking about their external circumstance. And this is not to undermine or to, to make light of some of the real barriers you may have, the real challenges. But what a thinking partner could help you do is to think about it in a different way that you're able to see an opening while still being focused on the pickup. I hope that's helpful, Michael.
Okay, thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the question.
All right, you have two here in left and right.
Where are we going with the question? Okay.
Mini, money, more. Cry. Take your bag and say goodbye.
Thank you. I'm really happy you came. So I have a question. In fact, I have two questions. The first one is, I wanted to know, listening to a lot of podcasts, videos, and all those, we are told the importance of setting goals. But then when you started the topic or the lesson, I thought it was going to be going from goals to planning and all that. But then I realized that you just went straight to the planning. So I'm asking, do you have to have a goal first or set a goal before you plan? And then also, the goals, are they the same as the plans, but in details?
Nice. Oh, I love the question. Give her a round of applause. Huh? First thing, it's very interesting you said this. First, it's to clarify, when I talked about intentions, to me your intentions are your goals. That's just another way. I was trying to find another way. Sometimes, many times when I hear goals, I'm like, it's just so. But it's really, what do I intend to achieve? What do I intend to experience? Those are my goals. Now back to the plan. You cannot have a plan without a goal. Because remember, a plan is about describing the process to reach a destination. That destination is your goal, your intention, where you want to be. So ideally, your plan should have very clearly your goals. And these are the steps. Essentially, your plan is like, these are the steps to get to that goal. So when I was saying that, one of the key things you do during the planning process is clarify your intentions. All I meant is clarify your goals. Be very clear, what is this goal? How do I define it? How do I measure that I've achieved it? So you're spot on. Yeah? Okay.
Thank you. So when you talked about not involving others, I was thinking that sometimes we have issues trying to communicate what we are planning to people around us. And so we don't get their full support. As a leader, what kind of strategies would you want to employ to be able to communicate the plan that you want to implement? Thank you.
I would say one of the, and I know many leaders who have struggled with this, I would say one of the best tools that will enable you to communicate well is to understand what matters to the other person. You know the usual principle of what's in it for me. Yeah? So if I need to communicate that this is our goal, our destination as a business this year, I won't talk about it in terms of what matters to Taaka only. I will talk about it in terms of what matters to you. So if I know what matters to you at the end of the day is your paycheck, I am going to talk about, if we do all of this, we get profits and I'm able to pay you better. So that it's always framing it in a way that speaks to what matters to people. That's one. It's also speaking to emotions. I find many times as leaders, we can get so caught up on the big brofo, the numbers, the what, but many times what moves people are not the numbers, it's the emotions. When you've communicated, do they feel excited? Do they feel inspired? Or were they afraid, thinking, oh my gosh, what does this mean for me? Is my job threatened? So I work with lots of leaders who deal with change issues, and I'm always saying, be very mindful of your communication, because immediately you start to talk about change, people get what they call an amygdala hijack. The older part of their brain kicks in, and it's like threat, 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 death, death. It's almost like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? Very natural human response. So when you couch your communication with all the emotional intelligence, where you're reading people's language to say, body language to say, is what I'm saying hitting, is it inspiring? If I'm giving a difficult message, am I showing empathy as I'm giving that? I think if you keep those two things in mind, it helps ensure that people understand. And then always leave room for questions. So it's a conversation rather than a one-way street. I hope that's helpful. Yeah? Okay. You ready to come? Oh, yeah, here's the...
So I have 4 questions.
Oh, wow. I feel like I need
For context, I run a couple of businesses, and then on a personal level, I do speaking and training as well. So my first question, how do I stick to plans for my businesses when the key resources, quote, the people that I intend to execute the plan leave in the middle of the plan? They leave the business in the middle of the plan. So it takes you some time to hire new people, to train them, to understand the plan, to help you execute. How do I do that? Second question, how do I keep the focus and keep on executing the plan when I'm hit by a crisis? How do I keep the focus? Then third question, what happens to executing a plan when I run out of money? Then fourth question, now based on experience, I understand that success requires focus. But then I'm a multi-gifted person who runs multiple businesses. And I believe strongly in every gift in every business. So even though sense is telling me I need to focus, passion is telling me I need to do all of it. How do I do this?
We need almost a couple of hours together. let me try, and make sure I also understood all of them. So I think the first one was about, in fact, still hold the mic and say, in case I didn't understand. What happens when you're planning and then people leave in the middle of the plan, and then you have to get new people on? This is a good one. A key thing, remember I talked about, often when we plan, those plans are just in our heads. So a key thing I would be asking you as you're planning, how are you capturing it on paper in a way that when new people come in, you are able to seamlessly onboard them into the new plan? And also recognizing you will also still have to do some work to get their full buy-in and ownership of that plan. So that's the first thing I would say. So capturing it in a way that those can. How do you keep focus on in a crisis? What do you do with your plan, or how do you stay focused?
I didn't get that.
Your second question about a crisis.
So how do you focus on executing a plan when you are hit by a crisis?
Okay. Remember our wonderful COVID. We all seem to have forgotten. But remember how that was such a crisis. All of us had plans that when we looked at them, I remember our business plan, we were like, oh, we need to revisit. So that is the key thing. You revisit, sometimes you may have to throw the plan out of the window because you're like, it's no longer relevant to this crisis or the changing circumstance, and you may need to plan again. The key thing though is often crises can send us in so many directions, isn't it? It's enabling yourself to use the plan to stay ideally your plan should be about what is important to you. A crisis sometimes makes you forget that because you're so trying to survive. Trying to survive. So your plan, use it either two things. It's either to say, is this still relevant? If not, we got to replan. Or two, it's saying that how can it help us remind us in terms of what is important to us, what we stand for, what we're here to seek to achieve. So does that answer your second? Your third, how do you execute when there's no money? So no money is a perfect example of the circumstance has changed. So when you did the plan, you envisioned that you were going to have revenue of X amount, right? Now all of a sudden it has not materialized. So when you're date with your plan, you may need to say, now we need to redo this plan. So I think that's a key message coming out, that a plan is not something you hold so rigidly. The key thing is to have a plan. But a plan has to be responsive to your, because you may change. You're like, now that I have no money, I have to redefine my goal. Because now I need to do things that may not require as much money. So let's redo the plan. So you still have a plan, but you redo the plan and have a different type of plan. And the last one, this is it's so interesting about this one. Because I'm currently working with an organization whose Taro's executive director, you can clearly see is very entrepreneurial and just she sees an opportunity. Oh, fantastic, let's do that. Oh, this is fantastic, let's do that. This one, let's do this. And her passion truly is sending her in all those places. So whereas I hear you about the need and the drive to do all these different things, at a certain point, to succeed in all of these, you need to define how many is enough. And you may decide, let's say you have 5 businesses, just give a random number, that are all fantastic. You may say, I need to have all of them going, but you may decide, I'm going to sequence it. For the next 2 years, I'm really going to focus on these 2 businesses, get them off the ground in a particular way that somebody else can run them. After that, I can move to these other ones. So sometimes it might not be about dropping everything, but it might be about the timing around everything. But being very honest with yourself about how can you truly excel when you're doing it. So you almost know, 5, I can still excel. By the time I go to 6, now my quality is going down. And making that type of assessment. Yeah? I hope that answers all your, yeah?
It does. All right, so Taaka, you have a lineup of online participants who are asking questions. If we don't allow them to get their questions through, they will boycott us next week. So let me acknowledge particularly Samuel Odami. Samuel Odami says building a church is planning,
yes.
Marriage is planning, building a house is planning. Is everything planning? That's Samuel's question.
Not necessarily. There's some things you just take a quick decision. You may not need a plan for it. But I would tell you, if there's something that's going to require a process to get to it, then it needs a plan.
Okay. Delali Susu says, should a plan be hard on yourself necessarily?
What do you mean, should a plan be hard on you? How are you understanding that?
I guess Delali is talking about exerting, pushing you to the limits. Should a plan be hard on you? Should it push you?
Yes. I love that question, if that's what Delali's meaning is what I've always found is, there are those who say, I think it's MLK who said, if you're going to dream, dream big. So I have always tried to be ambitious in my plans, so that my plans actually push me to achieve more and more and more. But the word is ambitious, not hard. Because of all the things that we talked about, being compassionate on ourselves when we don't win. But it should push you to be even better. Forgive me.
All right, so interestingly, the time blocking is online. One of the things that many people are saying is new to them.
Yeah.
Nana Afriye Mensa Buedu says it's always refreshing to listen to this amazing woman called Taaka Awori. If you agree, put your hands together. All right, last question for the day, and then we'll wrap this up on the series on planning, and that comes from Dr. Babs. Dr. Babs. Babs, you have the last question.
Thank you. Another question, I was going to add something to a suggestion that you may look at scenario plans, and then we also look at contingency plans and business continuity plans to support your plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Babs. I've just enjoyed this time. I struggle sometimes to choose my favorite points. But before I give Taaka the chance to share her closing thoughts, I would say that why do we miss out on planning for the aspects of our life that we say are important? So what shall it profit us as Christians when we've planned for the building but not planned for your salvation? Or what shall it profit you if you have spent so much time planning your career and no time planning for your family? That when all is said and done, that is your life, your home. Also, she mentioned that the plan should clarify what you will not do. And that for me is a big thing, Dabola. Every one of us must carry away. There must be a line you draw and say, no matter how broke I am, this line, I will not cross it. Then, of course, she explained along the line the balance between being too general and then being too detailed. The one that I didn't get to ask again was podcasts. You mentioned that you were listening to a podcast. Again, back to the same point. I would like to, in your closing remarks, speak to continuous learning. I'm struggling about whether to ask you to speak about communication to close or continuous learning. But it struck me that, again, for someone so accomplished, you talked about listening to a podcast and learning from it. Taaka, maybe sign off by telling us how important it is for the person who wants to get to the top to make time for their own learning. I think that would be a nice way to end this.
Thank you so much. It's interesting. You talk about it in terms of the person who would want to get to the top. Huh? I'd actually say even those who are at the top
right.
need to invest in continuous learning. I would say if you're not growing, you're moving back. Because the world is changing so fast and so often and so quickly and so rapidly that if you are not growing and investing in constantly learning, I find the challenge we have on this continent is we have defined learning as a certificate. So when people think of learning, they think, okay, what degree am I going for? And people, we love to collect degrees. And yet I find that the best learning, the true learning, actually comes from learning from life. So to me, continuous learning actually starts with an open mind to start to constantly look at my life each day. The failures, the joys, and say, what am I learning from this? And then there's the informal learning. I am a voracious reader. If I show you my Kindle, I have about 400 books on my Kindle because I need to constantly have books. But I've also realized that because now I'm adjusting, I'm on the go constantly. So when I listen to podcasts as I walk in the morning. So I'm able to combine those two. Because I realize exposure to other minds, the way they think, and all is for free.
Free, yeah.
It's for free. Yeah? So really the opportunities, in many respects, we have no excuse not to be constantly learning. And if you don't learn, before you find you've moved back. So I'll end on there. Thank you so much for
Before you go, Taaka, I love it when parents bring their children to sessions like this. Because and the reason is this. When I was in class 4, my mother taught me my favorite lesson in investment. And she taught me in a very unusual way.
Okay.
I happened to be first in class. So she took me to a Kingsway shop and said to me to pick anything I want from the shelf and she'll pay for it. So I chose this brown ankle high shoes. And it was 39 cedis, 99 pesos. Yes. And then she says, you can have it. Then just when I stretched my hand to pick it, she says, by the way, do you know the cost of the estate houses at Kwesimintim? And I said, no. She said, if you sorry. I said, no. That wasn't Taaka. Then she said, she mentioned the cost of the house and my mathematical mind divided the house by the cost of the shoe. So it struck me that if I saved this number of shoes, I will own a house. I said to her, you know what? Put the money in my bank account. So for the 2 young children here, yourself and yourself, come. I have a prize for you. Come. Let's find out if you heard something. For all you know, you heard. I love the smile on your face. Listen, you're just a nice young man. Come. Don't feel shy. What's your name? Selma. Did you hear anything that Auntie said?
A little.
A little. Tell me the little that you heard.
I learned that I don't really remember.
You don't remember, but you enjoyed it. All right. Where's my friend?
Who's under the table? He's under that table.
I have a gift for you. Come. Don't worry, this is PCH. Saul was under the table where they found him. Come on. Come. It's good to see you. Sit on my chair. Come and sit on this chair. You become great in future. Let me carry you. Oh, you need to sit on this chair. Did you learn anything from Auntie? What do you want to become in future?
I want to want to become a lawyer.
A lawyer? Oh, I see. What do you want to become in future?
An artist.
An artist? Do I have any artist here? I have an artist. Artist, come and stand by here. Lawyer, come and stand by. Come and stand. Artist, stand here. And then yes. There you go, you see. Lawyer stand. Artists, stand here. And you know what? Let's give our wow moment to the children. So Taaka, we normally give these gifts as a raffle to anyone, and I think the children will enjoy it more. And a picture with the famous Taaka Awori will be a beautiful gift for these children. Isn't that a good idea? It is. Let me join the picture. So Taaka, you present the books to them, and then this is the wow moment for the day.
Caleb.
Such a strong voice. Here you go.
A round of applause for Caleb. Oh, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Selma. Awesome. Okay, Taaka, so join me here. Caleb and Selma's picture with, there you go. All right. Are you looking nice? All right, thank you very much. Caleb and Selma. Let me carry you. All right, so there you go. Taaka, as always, thanks for coming. A round of applause for Taaka Awori. Just too good. Are you blessed today? One word. Give me one word. You know, I love one word summaries. Your one word summary. Who hasn't spoken today? One word summary. Martin, one word. Your one word summary. Which would be your one word? Yes. Focus. One word. Yes.
Golden.
Effectively.
Golden.
Attention. You see, the chocolate did the trick. I tell you something. The chocolate did the trick. Yeah, your one word. Intention. The children are featuring. Impressive. Yes, your one word. Salma, your one word. Amazing. You're having so much fun. Last two one words. One word. Planning. Last word. Focus. I want to say a big thank you to you all for coming. It's time for offering. The offering bags to go around. Give us the Lord has blessed you as Joshua plays his favorite song for us. Joshua has a wonderful YouTube channel. Find it and listen to him. He plays Christian instrumentals. Very inspirational. Joshua, over to you. I was enjoying Joshua so much, I forgot I was giving announcements. Round of applause for Joshua. Joshua, come and tell me the name of your YouTube channel so that I can listen again tonight. Joshua is just such a fantastic person. What's the name of your channel so I can... 2. The one that I listen to, which one is that one? The one that has instrumental gospel music.
Peaceful Piano Arena A.
Peaceful Piano Arena A.
Yes.
Please go and find Peaceful Piano Arena A. When you listen to it, fresh ideas will flow in your head and your plan will work. Says Pastor Albert. Joshua, you're a good man. Okay, so Joshua will say the closing prayer for us today. Joshua, sit down on my seat. May all your plans come to pass this year.
Amen.
So before Joshua says the closing prayer, just to remind you that this Sunday is a very special day. ICGC is celebrating 40 years, and here at the New Wine Temple, instead of our regular programming of church service, we are having a breakfast at 7:30 a.m. till 9 a.m. and then coming to the auditorium for church service, one service, not a double service, one service at 9 to 10:30. Please don't wear your regular formal clothes. You can dress just like this. Find some nice, relaxed wear, and then focus all your attention on the evening Thanksgiving service. But the morning is very, very special. Let's come and have a wonderful time together. Just enjoy family. The important thing I'd like to mention also is that it's our first Fruit Sunday, and it also is our birthday celebration for those born in the month of February. We will line up a long cake for all February borns to cut together. So it's big. And the cutting will be done during breakfast before we come into the auditorium. So 7:30 a.m. we are here. We leave here at 10:30 a.m. on Sunday. Have a beautiful week. And Joshua, do us the honors.
Can we kindly rise up on us?
Yeah, let's rise there. Yes. Yeah, rise up as we pray.
Okay. Father, Lord, we thank you for another time in your presence. We thank you for the knowledge. We thank you for Taaka Awori. We thank you for Pastor Albert Okran. We thank you for Lady Comfort Okran. We thank you for ICGC New Wine for this initiative that is shaping visions, changing the world, sending forth good information to people who are privileged of this information. Father, Lord, we thank you. We thank you for the strength. We thank you for the resources. Father, as we live here, we pray that every thought, every idea, every goal, every plan will be achieved in the mighty name of Jesus. That in this year we shall look back and say that is the doing of the Lord, and it is marvelous in our sight. These are many things I ask in your Son Jesus Christ's name. I've prayed thanksgiving. Amen.
Amen. God bless you and good night.